cannot believe we're actually here right now. Okay, let me compose myself. 5 Seconds of Summer is an Australian band that formed in December of 2011. The members consist of Luke Hemmings as lead singer and rhythm guitarist, Callum Hood as bassist, Michael Clifford as lead guitarist, and Ashton Irwin on drums. A common discussion when it comes to 5 Sauce, which is the acronym for the band, it's pronounced like 5 Sauce and not 5 SOS. Anyways, a common discussion when it comes to 5 Sauce is the inability to find and define one specific genre to them. This isn't because they create experimental music that defies genre necessarily. It is more that they are known for reinventing their sound and image with every album. I never know how to discuss 5 Sauce and their fame because they seem to occupy such a liminal space in the pop music world. On one hand, they have been self-described as the biggest band you've never heard of, mainly because of their massive fan base and decent chart success, yet lack of mainstream media presence to a certain degree. For example, you'll occasionally see a popular news article where one of the members is mentioned in relation to a famous person like Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber, and they always seem like they just don't belong there. On the other, they have achieved many things that only the most elite of bands have ever been able to do. The history of 5 Sauce is decently well documented, but there seems to be a lack of a defined timeline as well as a concise review of all of their music, so I thought I'd be the person to do that today. We're going to break down and discuss every era of 5 Seconds of Summer and talk about the importance they hold as a band in our modern commercial landscape, but mostly just nerd out over this obsession I've had for the past decade and make all of this seemingly useless information in my brain have a purpose. I was actually working on this project in the fall of 2021, specifically Thanksgiving 2021, when I was on break from school. I started writing this script, and a little video dropped that announced the 10-year anniversary special of their band, as well as the fact that a new album was on the way. So I basically just put a halt to this, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait until the album comes out, until everything kind of calms down, to really start working on this again. And now seemed like a good time. That is until they announced another single coming out in February of 2024. Just please let me rest, please. Over the past few years of collecting all of this information about them, I have slowly started portraying what I can only describe as word vomit, like Katie Heron had in Mean Girls. 5 Sauce were my Regina George, and I just couldn't stop bringing up information about them at every given point in my life. It didn't matter who it was or what comment section I was under. If something reminded me of 5 Sauce, I had to share what I was thinking. So actually sitting down and working on this has been a great catharsis for me in my life, and I am so sorry to the members of 5 Sauce if they ever end up seeing this and learn about what I've been getting up to in the past 3 years. I haven't done anything illegal or creepy, but my search history and Instagram Explore page are basically ruined forever now. I guess I deserve that, really. I'm going to be analyzing their career by era and uploading each segment as its own video because I still think this is like ancient YouTube times where videos have to be short, although I have a feeling that each section of this video is not going to be short. But at the end, I'm going to supercut the entire series into one big fat video that encompasses their entire career so far. This is mostly so I don't burn out and hopefully make progress at a consistent pace, and I'll cut out all of this preamble and intros and outros out of the official video when it comes out. So with that being said, let's get started, and let's cut to my ugly mug as we decide to talk about 5 Seconds of Summer. One thing we won't be talking about is a lot of gossip or personal things in relation to relationships they've had, or things that don't really pertain to the music. I do want this to be a review of their music first and foremost, with some background information given, because I got it all up here, that's for sure. But I don't want to talk about gossip from like 7 years ago or do a detailed list of every single person all 4 of them have dated. Like that it makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't want to talk about it. And that also goes for just in general personal things that happened in their life. There will be a few things I'm going to have to mention because there are some topics I find very interesting and I think are worth discussion. But when it comes to a lot of like the tabloid bullshit, I'm not interested in it unless it was really stupid and they were like in the tabloids for a very stupid reason. I'll mention it then. Only to make fun of the tabloids will I talk about them. And also I will be talking about a lot of my own personal theories, and because of that I will make a clear visual distinction of when I'm talking about something that has no real weight in reality and is just something I've basically made up as a sort of theory, a fan theory of mine. So when we get there, we'll start to understand. But yeah, I just wanted to clear a few things up. Also, what we're not going to do is comment on the shirt that I'm wearing, because I thought it'd be a fun gag if I pulled out all my old Five Sauce merch and tried to show it off in the video. But this is from when I was in middle school, so it definitely doesn't fit me anymore. So we're just going to pretend that I'm not wearing a children's shirt, essentially. What am I kidding? I was not wearing children's clothes when I was a children. A children? This is a mess. Let's start over. Today we're going to talk about the early years of 5 Seconds of Summer. And I'm still debating whether this is going to be its own video or if it's going to be lumped in with the self-titled era. But either way, we're starting at the beginning. Now, originally, I wasn't sure how much I was going to include when discussing the early years of Five Sauce. Mainly because even though there's some information out there, there isn't like a lot compared to a lot of the other years we have to talk about when they're in the public eye. And also because a problem with a lot of younger celebrities or young people who live like the sort of famous person lifestyle is that memory loss seems to be a very, very common thing that happens to them. So in a lot of modern interviews, the members of 5 Seconds of Summer always end up saying, I don't remember what happened at the beginning of our careers because I was a child and it all just kind of got deleted from my brain, probably because of trauma. So because of that, it's a little bit more difficult to really understand the early years of Five Sauce. Or so I thought. Because then, as a little funny side gag I was going to include in the video, I dug up this old relic right here, which is the Five Sauce book. Is it focusing on Luke instead of me? Don't focus on him. Focus on me. This is the official Five Sauce book, called Hey, Let's Make a Band, the official Five Sauce book. Easy reading level 1. This was published probably in, I think, mid to late 2014. I know it was in 2014, but I don't know the exact month. But based on the jokes in this thing, I can almost exactly pinpoint when this thing was created. That's how hyper-specific a lot of the references are in this thing. Maybe that's just because I also don't have a life. That's something else I haven't considered. Like I said, originally I wasn't going to include this book in the actual proper discussion. It was just going to be a little side gag in the video. But one day the power went out in my room, and I was like, got nothing better to do than to read a book that's almost a decade old. I'm not holding it upside down, by the way. It's one of those reversible books, as you can see. I've always liked this side better, just because when you open it, it's like, oh, they're in their superhero uniforms. Remember Don't Stop? We love Don't Stop, don't we? But after reading through this book, out of pure boredom and desperation, and also because I knew I was making this video, so I figured it's probably a good idea to reread this thing in the modern day, there's actually a lot of really good information in here about the early years of Five Sauce, probably because they were only a band for like 2 years when they wrote this. How are they supposed to write like an autobiography, basically, when they had barely existed? Because it was written so early in their career, there's a lot of information in here that they probably wouldn't talk about nowadays because they think it would be boring, or they just don't remember because trauma and time. So this is actually an important part in discussing the early years of 5 Seconds of Summer. Who would have thought? The reason why it says easy reading level 1 on the front of the book is because a lot of it is just stuff like this, where it's like images of the band and then like the fucking most tiny amount of writing and just a bunch of fucking blank space. Like, this is the most egregious page, in my opinion. Like, there's barely anything on this thing. Also, I don't even know what this is a reference to. Maybe I joined the fandom too late to know what that means, but there's not a lot of words in this book, is what I'm trying to say. But in that sense, it kind of works as just like a picture book of the early years, because there's a lot of photos in here I don't really see circulated a lot from like 2013 specifically, when they were on tour with One Direction. So pick up a copy or find like a digital scan of this book if you're interested. There's some pretty good stuff in here. So let's do a brief overview of where the 4 members of this band were at the beginning of the band, at their conception, I guess you could say. In the summer of 2011, the YouTube channel Hemo1996 started uploading covers of pop songs and kind of some emo shit, mostly acoustic covers, and it was clearly done on a webcam in somebody's like media room, and it was by a literal child with the most Justin Bieber haircut to ever exist. These surprisingly did very well and got quite a lot of views on the internet at the time, which nowadays might be surprising because like videos like this get uploaded like every 12 seconds onto YouTube and they all get like maybe 5 views at best and then just get discarded. But one thing I want to mention early on is that there was a sort of acoustic wave of popularity happening around this time. You could upload an acoustic cover of a pop song that was on the charts at the moment, and it would like do numbers, even if the film and, debatedly singing quality was a little bit low. I do think Luke, at age 14, was a decent enough singer. The audio quality is very low, so I don't know who would like specifically go to listen to this video for like an acoustic cover, but like a lot of people were doing this at the time. It was very popular. If you find like your favorite influencer currently who was like kicking it all the way back a decade ago, and you know that they like to sing or play guitar or whatever, literally just like go to the bottom of their YouTube page and you'll definitely find covers of popular songs. Like it was a real trend at the time, and that is how Five Sauce got their start.
Next thing you know, your voice. But at that time, acoustic covers were at their peak on YouTube. They were doing
more than anything,
dude. It really was like if you did a good acoustic cover, you would do numbers. So the key to breaking on social media then was to do just a good acoustic cover. Geez, times have changed, eh? Like damn.
According to the book, Luke was new at this sort of private Christian school that apparently all the other schools hated. So he made quick friends with his older brother's friends, which caused him to get this sort of cool guy reputation, as well as the fact that he was like basically internet famous at this time. That's where Michael Clifford enters the conversation. He saw these videos of Luke uploading covers and was like, hey, I can play guitar. Maybe we should start a band of some sort. Or I think at the beginning it was just, can I do some internet videos with you? And so they did. Good on them for leaving all of these YouTube videos up. I kind of love these like weird internet relics. Like nowadays, if you're going to upload a YouTube video, it's going to be like very sophisticated and official and professional.
Hey, this is Michael. I'm Michael. This is Luke. We're from 5 Seconds of Summer. And yeah.
So yeah, they're doing covers, and eventually Callum Hood, who was kind of a friend of both of them, but all the three of them were not really friends yet, says, hey, how about all three of us do covers? And 3 people at least is a band, right? So this is when they officially kind of start to become a band. They're not really, though, because they're just kind of fucking around and playing Xbox and occasionally learning the covers of a song and then performing it in Luke's living room on Michael's iPhone. Apparently he was the only one who owned an iPhone at the time, so he was the only one they could record videos for. He was like the main social media user at the time. Michael made a Facebook page for the band. They wanted to perform their first gig, but they didn't have a drummer, so Michael Facebooked Ashton and said, hey, do you want to play a show for us? He said yes. After the show, they officially asked him to be part of the band, and that's the day they became a band, December 3rd, 2011. This is the story they tell in literally every single interview of theirs when they ask, so, how'd you guys become a band? So, like, this is pretty well canonized as, like, the story of how Five Sauce got together. But some details that I learned from this book and also later interviews, I think provide a lot of insight into the members and how they ended up, doing what they ended up doing in the band. Apparently, Michael and Luke absolutely hated each other when they first met. Nowadays, they don't really know why. They just go, we don't know why we didn't like each other, but eventually we became friends. But in this book, it specifically says that apparently Michael and Luke both liked the same girl, but then Michael asked her out before Luke got to, so there was like some weird beef between them. Does anyone care about this? Michael says that, since he grew up an only child, he was quite spoiled and had like this huge gaming setup, so he was super into the internet and video games. But then the 2008 housing crisis really affected his family, and they became quite broke quite quick. I feel like Callum's story is the most interesting. Not that the other ones are uninteresting, but like his is very fascinating to me, and I'm surprised it doesn't get talked about as often. Maybe just because it was like, well, we were 14, so like that's, a long time ago. But still, I think it's really interesting to talk about. Callum was apparently a very talented soccer player, and I know they call it football literally everywhere else in the world, but I'm a stupid, dumb United States American, so I'm just gonna call it soccer in the video. I'm sorry. Callum was apparently talented enough at soccer that his whole family and him had already accepted the fact that he was going to go pro and be like a professional soccer player. And apparently he even went to Brazil to train for a couple of weeks, which is like, that's some legit sportsness, But then he started learning how to play guitar, and he really fell in love with music. And so as they kind of started making their covers and kind of forming the band, he had to make this really serious life decision of, should I follow my dreams of becoming a musician, or should I stick to my soccer career? And of course, he eventually picked being a musician. Apparently, Callum was the least talented at playing guitar out of the three of them, so they told him he had to play bass. Which is kind of funny if you think about it.
My first question was, what is bass?
That was Callum's first question.
But then I was like, all right, well, this is my time to shine as the only bassist in the band.
And
that's very rare in a band.
It is rare.
That's a great origin story for Callum Hood.
It's bordering on villain origin story.
Almost.
It's like,
it still could be.
It's very villain. It is villain origin.
It is bordering on it.
Apparently, Michael was a super pro Guitar Hero player. Like, he could really shred on Guitar Hero, so that's what inspired him to actually learn how to play guitar in real life. But he almost gave up because it was much harder than the video game, who would have thought? And then Ashton, who is a very important part of the band, obviously because they weren't actually a band until he joined, but also because he was slightly older than them. He was like 2 years older, which nowadays doesn't make a big deal, but like when you're a teenager is like kind of crazy. He was 17 while the rest of them were like 14, 15. Apparently Ashton was also a pro athlete, and he was really good at swimming, and he did professional swimming when he was in school. But when he started playing drums, and he had joined many different bands before he joined Five Sauce, so when he started playing drums professionally, he decided to quit swimming, and that was also a very big deal in his life. Again, that never gets mentioned in any other interview, but it was mentioned in this fucking book. But yeah, Ashton learned how to play the drums when he was very young from his stepfather, because he would kind of be our roadie and help him set up his stepfather's band, who like would just play bars, like local bars, in between their real lives and actual jobs and stuff.
His method at teaching me was I earned a drum at a time. So he goes, if you can play in time on a kick drum, just go duh, 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 duh. He goes, once you can do that for a minute straight, I'll give you a hi-hat, and then you can go.
He was in a band famously called Swallow the Goldfish, and a few others as well that they've mentioned in passing. But Swallow the Goldfish is the most memorable one just because the name's fucking Swallow the Goldfish. And I think there's actually some videos on the internet of him performing in Swallow the Goldfish. So like if you can find them, it's a fun little watch. So yeah, he was pretty well known in the scene, in the area, as being a good drummer, which is why Michael originally messaged him on Facebook being like, hey, you want to play a show for us at the Annandale to 200 people? And apparently it was just like a gig work. They weren't asking him to join the band or anything. They were just like, I don't know, we need a session musician for our first ever show. They did a few rehearsals, of course, before the actual performance at the Annandale, but apparently Callum wasn't at either of them because he was at soccer practice. Again, he was living this sort of double life.
Again, the villain adding thievery.
Yeah, this villain origin story is really coming to life.
Another place I got a lot of this information from, by the way, was the 10-year anniversary, podcast thing that they did. It's like a 3-hour podcast where they talked about every year of their lives leading up to the 10-year anniversary in 2021. So that's another good watch if you want to get some information. They do share a lot of good information in that video as well, even though, like they said, it's just what they remember.
It's not what happened, it's the things we can't forget.
Disclaimer, What you can't forget was never what was conscious for.
Yeah. What I remember isn't what happened. It's just what I said.
Don't live in the future. Live in the past.
What I need is not what I want.
And what I want
isn't what I remember.
Isn't what I remember.
So 5 Sauce, they're uploading covers onto YouTube. Teenage Dirtbag is the classic one. Again, as somebody who lives on this side of the equator, I thought it was very novel that they were all wearing like tank tops and shorts in front of a Christmas tree. Because, it's summer in Christmas in Australia. So, December 3rd, 2011, they're officially a band. They had one song. They might have had a few more, actually. But the one song I know for sure that they had was the song Gotta Get Out, which was written exclusively by Callum on his iPhone in his bedroom, apparently. That's another thing they don't really emphasize a lot, is that Callum was really the main songwriter of the group when they officially started. So he was writing all these songs and then not showing up to fucking practice because he was playing soccer. One of the first ever, official 5 Sauce videos, I think it's the first ever official music video of theirs, I count it as a music video at least, is the acoustic recording of their song, Gotta Get Out. It's a great little video. I love Gotta Get Out as a song. I think it's a great first song for a band, personally. People could disagree, but I think it works really well for them. It kind of tells the ethos of the band at the time. I feel like every great band's first song gives a story as to who they are and where they are in their lives at this current moment. Think of My Chemical Romance's first song. People are going to get so mad at me that I'm comparing 5 Sauce to MCR, but whatever, who cares? The first ever MCR song, Skylines and Turnstiles, is basically about 9/11, and 9/11 is the reason why MCR exists, so it gives a good touchstone as to what the band is. And Gotta Get Out is about wanting to leave your small town, and I feel like it does this thing that they do in almost all of their songs, where especially early on, where it's it could be about a relationship and running away with a girl, but it also could just be about your own personal manifestation of your existence, and I think that's a 5 Sauce-ism. First 5 Sauce-ism of the video is it could be about a girl or just about your own self-actualization. They came up with the band name, I think, a little bit before they had their first gig, the name 5 Seconds of Summer. Apparently Michael came up with it in science class and didn't really give a choice as to whether they should decide if that's the band name or not. He just made all the social media and then just went with it. I'm definitely going to talk about it more later, trust me, but their social media presence in general is very important to them as the band. They're literally YouTubers. They started out as YouTubers, and no one actually says that, 5 Sauce were a YouTube band before they became a real band, but it's true. It's true. You're going to look at me and tell me that I'm wrong?
I'm going to stab him. You're going to look at me and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong? It's my favorite she wore a crown and she came down in a bubble, dog!
They were constantly engaging with their fans, mainly because they were absolute nobodies in real life. So the only fans they really had were online. So they just kind of naturally gained this sort of social media presence to interact with the little fans they did have at the time because they were all online. And it's literally the blueprint for every musician ever now, and they just kind of did it naturally. They were cute teen boys, and if you were a cute teen girl, you saw them with their fringes and their Australian accents online, and you were like, I'm a big fan of these people, even though they didn't have a single piece of music actually out yet. They were just uploading covers still. That's how they were able to gain a decent fan base early on, is through their interactions on Facebook, on Twitter, on Keek. Can't forget about Keek. Everyone forgets about fucking Keek, but Keek is the goddamn backbone of this band, okay? If you don't know what Keek is, you're about to learn a little bit later on from now. Early on, I don't have the exact date. I'll put it in post. It's 1 in the fucking morning, I'm sorry. At some point in 2012, they released the Unplugged EP. This is the first official 5 Sauce release. And I think it was just put directly to iTunes. They just kind of self-published it on iTunes, I'm pretty sure. They basically explained that the reason why they made this EP was just so they had something physical that their fans could buy. And it wasn't actually physical because it was a digital download, but an actual tangible piece of music they can download and not just a bunch of YouTube links, you know? So the Unplugged EP is exactly what it is. It's a bunch of acoustic songs. It's 2 of their original songs and then 2 covers. The 2 original songs are, of course, Gotta Get Out and the song Too Late, which is definitely a deep cut because it, you know, this is the only time we ever get an iteration of Too Late. The problem with being such an early band and having such a documented internet presence is that early on in bands, you kind of tend to write like a bunch of the same song. Like you write 5 songs that are basically all the exact same song, and then you pick the best one, or you take and remove different ideas from the other songs and put them into the one good song, and then you have the one good song. But since they were, you know, just like publishing these as they were writing them, basically, Too Late is just like a lesser version of Out of My Limit. Like Out of My Limit is the best version of that song. And so it makes sense that they just like very quickly recorded Too Late just so they could have like a 4-track EP out there. And then afterwards when they wrote Out of My Limit, they're like, we don't need Too Late anymore. Let's just throw it away. And I'm pretty sure the acoustic version of Gotta Get Out that they did the professional recording with the microphones and the camera and stuff is the recording that's on the EP. And here's my controversial opinion, okay? Here's where my takes get fucking serious. We're getting into hot takes territory. Later on, they will do a full, not unplugged version of Gotta Get Out, a non-acoustic version. And in my opinion, I think the acoustic version is better. It's very clearly a very singer-songwriter kind of song, and I think amping up the production doesn't do much for the song's favor. I mean, it's fine. Like, the official version of Gotta Get Out is fine. But I think Five Sauce agree with me that the acoustic version is more iconic and maybe even better. Because when they did the 10-year anniversary special and they played Gotta Get Out, they played it in the acoustic setup they did in the original video. Which maybe they just did to be an homage to the original video, or maybe they have taste like me. The 2 covers on the EP are a cover of Jay-Z Ray by All Time Low and a cover of I Miss You by Blink-182. 2 absolute classic acoustic, like, pop-punk songs to cover. I don't want to be mean to the Jay-Z Ray cover, because I think they do something very interesting with the orientation of the song, and it's a very cute cover, but the vocals are a bit rough. Let's not deny ourselves, okay? And also it sounds like it was recorded on a laptop, probably because it was. Lights out. Again, the only reason why you would ever listen to this EP is if you're a hyper-obsessed superfan and you want to say, I've heard every single Five Sauce song that exists out there. Like myself. Even the cover of I Miss You, they've done that cover like 20 different times, all the way up to like the end of the self-titled era. So like just find a YouTube cover that they did that's like, you know, much higher quality, something from like the BBC or something, and you'll be good. You'll get all you need of the I Miss You cover. Because this version, it's fine. Again, recorded on a laptop. Actually, I do think they recorded these in an actual studio, but it was clear they had no idea what they're doing, because apparently they weren't playing to click track, and they just had like the guy who let them into the building like do the mixing for them. Yeah, overall, Unplugged EP is very much an archaic form of the early years of this band. So with this EP out, and with them having an agent or a manager or whatever, they started doing shows. They started booking shows. This tour would eventually be known as the 2012 tour, which they made a little video diary about if you want to go watch it. This shirt is fucking pissing me off because it's like a medium, and I am not a medium-sized person. This is the year that they also went on tour with Hot Chelle Ray, which is fun. They opened for Hot Chelle Ray, if anyone was wondering. If I don't get a copyright claim for it, I'll definitely play the video where they announced that they were going on tour with Hot Chelle Ray, because it is a grade A old internet video, for sure. This is how I'm getting over copyright. I'm just gonna talk over the clip of them doing a lip sync to a Nightcore version of Tonight by Hot Chelle Rae. I just wanted to clarify real quickly, let me get my notes, I did not prepare for this, oh my gosh, that they went on the 2012 tour from July 28th to August 5th, 2012, and the Hot Chelle Rae tour, where they opened for them, in October to November of 2012. So while we're here, appreciating this black and white... Sorry, I just saw Michael do that fucking face. This is crazy. I cannot believe that this is how they announced that they were going on tour with Hot Chelle Rae. It is hilarious, and for some reason I see it brought up a lot when people talk about Five Sauce, probably because it's fucking insane. So, there you go. Hope you have a wonderful day. Back to the video. Another important thing that happened in 2012 was the release of their second EP, which many would consider like their first real official release, the Somewhere New EP. I am so excited to talk about the Somewhere New EP, guys. I didn't get my CDs. So here's the Somewhere New EP. I'll include a blow-up image of the actual cover art because, like, this is some real ancient shit right here. This is definitely like a reprint. There's no way this is like an original CD of theirs that they got, because it was too brand new looking from where I ordered it. But yeah, this shit is very 2012. Can I read to you guys what's in the liner notes? From 2 megapixel covers in our bedroom, being even more clueless than we are now, our journey as a band becomes crazier every day. We want nothing more than to make fans and supporters of Five Sauce proud and take them with us wherever it is we will end up. From this EP, you will finally have some real to jam to. We finally have something real to jam to. I thought that was a typo. Not that there's no typos in this, trust me. And we hope you love it, Five Sauce family. We are just getting started. Chicken grease peace nipples. Loss of dat love. Michael, Luke, Callum, and Ashton. First of all, they didn't use the Oxford comma, so that's the first issue with this liner note. Very much clearly written by Michael, because for some reason the phrase chicken grease peace nipples was commonly said by him at this time. Very 2012. Artwork by 5 Seconds of Summer. Yeah, no shit. It looks like a goddamn Instagram pic, because it was an Instagram pic. Look at the filters on this thing, man. The blurring of the background, because it was clearly just in Luke's bedroom, and they probably didn't have the rights to, like, put all these posters in their actual official artwork. I absolutely adore this album cover. This is, like, unintentionally, again, one of the best album covers they could have ever done for this album, for this EP. So, let's talk about the songs on this bad boy. The first song is Unpredictable, which is a song that the Five Sauce fam love to spam in the members' like responses on Twitter. I don't know if the joke still exists now because I don't have Twitter, but a lot of people under responses of like them being like, we're on tour, would say shit like, play Unpredictable, please play Unpredictable. And it's literally the only song out of all of those songs where people have like screamed about it in their DMs that they've actually refused to play again. Although who knows, they played Don't Stop at their most recent tour, so I guess anything's possible. I really like Unpredictable. I think it's a really cute song. I like that they all trade off vocals on it as well. I think this is the first time all 4 of them sang on a recorded song, and it shows how from the very beginning they all wanted to sing and have vocals on their songs and trade off vocals, and I think that's a very cool thing. I kind of mentioned Out of My Limit already in the beginning. The riff sounds just a little bit too much like All the Small Things by Blink-182. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem, but other than that, it's a perfectly fine song. Beside You is the real shining star of this EP. Beside You is the one song that I specifically say from this EP people have to listen to. It's definitely, in my opinion, one of their best ballads. In general, the EP is very singer-songwriter, very radio-friendly. The production's very slick. There's a lot of hooks. If there's one thing this EP tells you, it's that these boys know how to write a hook, okay? There, I think people understand now. Welcome to the first conspiracy take of the video. Am I really going to want to have a whole extended section of me wearing this on the internet? Who knows? Early on, Five Sauce had very established inspirations for their band. In the book especially, the book, let me get it out. Oh my god. Five Sauce book. They mention how a lot of their inspirations were bands like Green Day, Blink-182, and I think of most importantly, All Time Low. So if these were the band's biggest inspirations, you'd think they'd sound like that. Here's where my conspiracy comes into play. I gotta put the shit back on. Gotta put the embarrassing shit back on. I think early on, they were very aware of the fact that they had a specific fandom that they had built of people who liked acoustic music or like very clean singer-songwriter type stuff. But they knew eventually they wanted to start making their pop-punk fantasy, their pop-punk dreams. So they wanted to properly transition, have a slow evolution into that sound, into that sort of pop-punk sound. So their first EP, the Somewhere New EP, is very singer-songwriter, very radio kind of pop rock friendly for a specific reason. Now, I actually don't think this is all that true, so, I'll take the hat off. It's kind of a conspiracy, but it's kind of not. It's like a little bit of both. That's the Somewhere New era, or just like the early beginnings era of the band. I would say, it kind of ends a little bit after this EP comes out, so we'll get there. But overall, this EP is good, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody unless you're a super fan, and again, you want to hear their really early stuff. I'd recommend Beside You, and that's about it. I really like the recording of Beside You from this EP specifically. They do go on to re-record Beside You, and again, we're in hot take territory, but I think that this version of Beside You is actually better than the re-recording. It's quite simple. It's a little bit dry. I will say the mixing is a bit dry, but for Beside You, if it being just like a sappy ballad, it works really well. And the re-recording isn't my cup of tea. One Direction. Do we remember One Direction? Does anyone not know about One Direction? Do I need to explain One Direction? I wouldn't be able to explain One Direction, even if I wanted to. I don't know if it's obvious, but I was never a One Direction fan growing up. One could even say I was a 1D hater, because I refused to have fun, apparently, and I hated myself. So yeah, I was never really into One Direction. I think I can name all of the members now, but, I'm still a little dicey on that. The only information I really know about One Direction is how they pertain to 5 Seconds of Summer, which is very funny, if you ask me. Around this time, while they're going to school in the weekdays and then hopping on planes and going to shows in Australia on the weekends, they are looking for management at the time. I originally misspoke. I apologize. But then, apparently, there's not a lot of information on, why or how Modest Management got in contact with 5 Seconds of Summer, but I'm pretty sure at the end of 2012, they got in contact with Five Sauce. The best thing to assume is that Modest Management saw a lot of potential in 5 Seconds of Summer as being the next boy band sensation, and so then attaching them to One Direction was the logical thing to do. And I would even say, again, I don't know anything about One Direction, so you 1D fans are going to have to, the Directioners out there, please correct me, but if I'm aware, I think One Direction did a lot of the similar social media interactions with fans in the early years, and I don't know if that is something that they got from Five Sauce, or if their management told both of them to do the same thing with the twit cams and the keeks and responding to people on Twitter, all that stuff. They wanted 5 Seconds of Summer to open for One Direction on their world tour, which is a very big deal. That's you've only been a band for a year at best, and all of a sudden the literal largest boy band in the entire world is go on tour with us. Now, I think there's a bit of confusion and a bit of not really confusion, I guess, but more just like kind of weird squabbling about this kind of history, because I think the way that the One Direction team and the Five Sauce team at the time liked to tell the story was that Louis Tomlinson was just on his phone and one day came across the Gotta Get Out live acoustic video on his phone on YouTube, watched it, thought they were cool, and then tweeted out, "Hey guys, check out this band, they're really awesome," which of course is a pretty big fucking deal. And that it was through Louis Tomlinson organically finding their band that they got signed on to be on tour with them. In an indirect way, Five Sass have proven that this isn't true. They don't mention the fact that, like, Louis Tomlinson finding the tweet online is what caused us to get signed to Capitol Records or anything when they do their 10-year anniversary retrospective. So I have a feeling that no one thinks this anymore, but I just wanted to clarify that because I see a lot of people, you know, talking about it back in the day, and I didn't want people to think that I didn't know about this, like, kind of rumor. So I just wanted to mention it briefly.
Between the, like, early November months, which was when we were given an opportunity that obviously would end up changing our lives, our manager, Matt, spoke to us. He's spoken to his friend, and One Direction are looking for a band to sign and take on their entire tour in 2013. Apparently,
they considered not going on tour with One Direction, which, to some people, I think like 80% of the fans would be like, why would they do that? And like 20% of the fans would be like, I know exactly why they would do that. And this exact reason is because, again, they wanted to be the next Green Day. And Green Day didn't get their start touring with Backstreet Boys, so how would they be the next Green Day if they went on tour with One Direction? This apparently, to their like 16-year-old brains, was like a very, very intense and real conversation they needed to have about the band. And like an actual thing that they could have turned down because of their reputation.
I remember the biggest problem was escaping our mentality that we shouldn't go on tour with a boy band.
It was
because we were like, we want to be Green Day. How the hell are we ever going to come back from going on tour with these
a boy
guys?
band? Yeah,
it just didn't make sense to our 15-year-old brains. We were like, how are we going to become a live band if we make a decision like this? And thank God we did.
I know
we got past that.
And you were right. I remember being like, isn't that crazy? Questioning that decision, being like,
insane.
I don't know, guys. Like, we want to be like a band, like a band.
Yep.
It's like it's so funny to think about.
I would argue that this was actually something that they were right to properly consider. This changed the trajectory of what their band was going to be forever. Which, of course, a decision like that would, obviously. But, like, it was very, very, very much so. This decision was the thing that fundamentally changed how 5 Seconds of Summer were going to be perceived by the general public. So nowadays, the phrase pop punk or the term pop punk doesn't really mean much anymore. It's just another genre term, and it's like just a thing we assign to any pop song that has like a guitar in it or like a palm muted guitar. Especially in the 2000s, which is when like Five Sauce were like growing up as children. So they'd be like very aware of this conversation. The conversation of pop punk and the words like emo and things that we all just understand as like normal things now were like being very, very heavily debated in the early 2000s and kind of late 2000s, early 2010s. Specifically, the term pop punk was very controversial. Very well established that like a lot of bands who were called pop punk hated the phrase and kind of saw it as like a derogatory term. I am here to argue and here to defend that pop music and punk, the ideas of pop and punk, are so similar that it makes complete sense that the genre of pop punk exists in the first place. And it's so fucking stupid that all of these punks are like afraid of the idea of the word pop and like how actual establishment they are when it comes to these things. Because both genres of music, pop music and traditional punk music, the main thing that defines them is their simplicity, is their use of short and fast chords, okay? You got the 4-chord pop song, right? In a punk song, you're lucky you even get a 3rd chord in there, and maybe a 4th if you're feeling good. So it's like, both of these genres were established as being very, very simplistic and repetitive, because they were both made for the same reason, which is getting down at the club. Whether it was at the discotheque or the fucking punk place where you punch each other in the face and you mosh. It's like, you guys are both doing the exact same thing, just with slightly different sounds. So of course it makes sense that the genres would merge with one another. And also, by the fucking way, pop and punk are very similar in the same sense that they are very image-based. Tell me fucking Johnny Rotten being styled by Vivienne Westwood is somehow more anti-establishment than goddamn Dua Lipa being styled by Vivienne Westwood? Like, oh my fucking god, these people are so goddamn stupid. Just because you have fucking pins and ripped jeans doesn't mean you're fucking punk, okay? Punk doesn't exist. Punk is fucking fake as shit, okay? Just listen to Carly Rae Jepsen and get the fuck over yourself. Anyways, wasn't this a video about 5 Sauce? I know there is an actual difference, by the way. I'm just saying this to make a point. Please don't get mad at me in the comments. This rant will make more sense a little bit later on. Okay? It'll all come into frame as we move forward. So all of this discourse is swirling around in these teenage boys' mind as they're trying to decide whether they're going to sign and go on tour with One Direction. And so they did it. Like, obviously, we all know that they did it, right? We all know that they went on tour with One Direction in 2013, the Take Me Home tour, and they started working with Modest Management. Both of these decisions is very, very important to how 5 Sauce were going to be perceived, because now that they were working with the same management that One Direction were working with, which, by the way, are very famously like the villains in the One Direction story, so it's kind of funny they don't get talked about as often in 5 Sauce land. This management obviously very, very directly, shapes the image of 5 Sauce, what we would come to know as 5 Seconds of Summer. But the first thing they needed to do was move to London, because that is where Modest Management was located in. So they were now going to become like a UK-based band. So in December of 2012, they packed up all their belongings and they moved to London. And I would personally say that the move to London was the official ending of the Somewhere New era and the beginning of the self-titled era, because this is mainly when they start writing all of these songs that would eventually be a part of the self-titled era, and when they start to work on their image and who they are and how they debut to the world as 5 Seconds of Summer with the self-titled album. So with that, let's keep going in the timeline. Are we having fun, guys? Is this fun? Is this a cool video? I just instinctively started doing like the English teacher thing where I like wrap myself in my cardigan. So did we learn a lot today, class? Did we learn a lot? I was originally going to include this along with the self-titled era as one big video, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm dropping this a day early. Tune in tomorrow when it is hopefully the 10-year anniversary of She Looks So Perfect for the self-titled era portion of the video. Again, like I said in the beginning, I'm going to make this all one big large video, so if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe and, tune in when I discuss the other albums as well. I'm also going to be talking about some Disney Channel original movies on my channel. That's mainly what I talk about on here. So if you're also interested in just 2010s nostalgia in general, then hit subscribe. Do whatever you want. Don't send this to the 5 Sauce Boys, though, please. Oh my god. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. I should have made a cup of coffee for myself for this video. I am hardcore struggling. That's because maybe, is it 1 a.m? No way. I thought it was like midnight. There's no way it's 1 fucking a.m. I have class at 9. I hope people appreciate the effort I put into my internet videos.